Good morning. I had to restart Movie Maker because it wasn't working when I clicked on the record button. Anyway, I'm going to jump right in. 2012, the Republic, the Bible, and Christianity. Yesterday was one hell of a day for me. A very emotional roller coaster. Those who watched yesterday's video can bear witness to that. Many things troubled me. However, last night's roundtable call for the Republic was enlightening. Nathan Peachy, Chief Justice of one Supreme Court for the Republic, gave an amazing presentation about the roots of common law in America, England, and more. Yes, he talked about the Bible and Christianity too. Even when I shut it off around 11:30, I could not stop thinking about it. With very little sleep, I feel much more peace again today. 2012 just might have seed sprouting for real republics and real religions, which I would characterize as real enlightenment capable of producing justice and peace on earth. Indeed, as I said in the blurb, many things did trouble me yesterday and have been troubling me of late as I watch the time tick toward deadlines and promises made by one particular individual, whom I will not name, not materializing as promised again. I set myself up a second time to be disappointed by the same individual. And that bothered me, as well as trying to reconcile all of the things that were coming up inside, all of the wounded child things that I thought I had dealt with long ago, and yet there they were again. The judgments that I held, the things that I was hanging on to, the fear, the anxiety. Again, a big one, the judgments. As I worked on the community calendar, certain triggers were happening inside of me. And a couple of different times throughout the day, I burst into tears. Literally burst into tears. It was an emotional roller coaster. And when I went on to the Republic call last night, I didn't know what to expect. And it was halfway or more than halfway into the call before Nathan Peachy even began his presentation. It was, I think it was well over an hour. I didn't look at the exact time that he began to give his presentation. But then he followed up with another one of the justices in the Supreme Court. I can't remember his name or where he was from, but common law goes back a long, long time, and it talked about the law of the land and the law of the sea and the roots of law on our planet. And one of the things that Tim Turner and the Republic people have long said is that we want a peaceful, lawful change, or revolution, if you will. We do not want this to come by violence or by force, but by, they didn't say this, I'm saying it, by the gentle move of the Spirit that enlivens all of us and everything. My big concern for the Republic has long been the fundamentalism that's still present within it, and it's still there. And fundamentalism is not an enlightened point of view for anybody that understands enlightenment, that understands spiritual awakening. It's a very dark spirituality, a very dark religion based on imposing from the outside conditions of morality and even doctrines and dogmas, imposing them on others. and saying this is the way you've got to believe, or you're persona non grata. You're just not going to be accepted because you're not acceptable. And spirituality isn't like that. Real religion isn't like that. A real republic will never do that, or it's not a republic. It's just another de facto government. But as I listened to Nathan Peachy, and as he explained that the culture, the very culture that brought forth the United States of America in its beginning stages, even in its the Confederation stage prior to the Republic being created through the Constitution, the foundation was the Bible and Christianity. I agree. It really was. I mean, the people that came to begin this American dream and this American experiment were people that were studied within their generation, and the Bible was a cornerstone of that study. A cornerstone in England and in the United States. But what gave me peace of mind is when Nathan said that it's not about messing with people's conscience and trying to impose something from the outside. It is truly the Christianity that our forefathers saw was truly not a Christianity of churches that were competing with one another and established religions. It was one of enlightenment in the respect that it allowed freedom of religion, not the imposition of a religion or of certain beliefs, but yet an imposition or not even an imposition, a recognition of certain basic principles that you're not allowed to hurt anyone else. The law, the Christian principle, if you will, is a universal principle, which is what Christianity really is. It's a universal religion, same as Buddhism, actually same as all religions. Although all religions have been poisoned because of separation and competition and ignorance of the people. And we've all played in that throughout our lifetimes. I mean, this is just the reality of it. Look back at human history. And so when I have seen fundamentalist Christians active in the Republic, and I know that many of them still may not see what I see, but some of them do. And that's what I saw in the beginning when I sat next to that gentleman whose name I don't remember, the first Republic meeting that I ever went to. And I went quite skeptical. And we talked about the words of Jesus, before Abraham was, I am. And he said, we can all say that because it's true of every human on this planet. Now that's not religion to me. That has nothing to do with religion. That's a perception of unity. That's a perception of true religion, if you will. True spirituality, if you will. That we are all infinite and eternal beings having a human experience. All of us. But the foundation is do no harm. That's the foundation of common law. It's more ancient than the Bible. It's more ancient than any religion. It is the essence that is within each of us, the flame of freedom that burns within each of us. We recognize intuitively and inherently, we recognize that we are interconnected and we're not allowed to hurt people. But that's not what we've grown up experiencing. That's not what's embedded in our DNA that produces the wounded child that was crying out in me yesterday for love, for forgiveness, for acceptance, just as my wounded child is. And there are many wounded children on our planet crying out for truth, and for justice, and for peace, and for love, and for understanding, and for compassion, and for mercy, and for grace. Grace doesn't come in fundamentalist anything. Fundamentalism freezes things and locks things up and doesn't allow for growth. It's always dwelling on the past, and our wounded children have been wounded by that past. Every single one of us have been wounded by religion masquerading as spirituality, but in fact, religion that has destroyed spirituality, that had created more ignorance and dogmatized the ignorance. The command of every true mystic, every true child, man or woman of God, child of God that is maturing, the mark is loving one another. The mark is treating others as you'd like to be treated. The mark is acceptance, not rejection. It's inclusion, not exclusion. And I can see that there are people in the Republic that are getting that. I can see the seeds, and the seeds are sprouting when I hear Nathan Peachy and the other justice that came on a little bit later, right toward the end, as at 11:30 was approaching. Just before 11:30, he gave a wonderful talk on the law of the land and the law of the sea. I'm sorry I don't remember his name. I didn't write it down. But these things were so encouraging. Here were people that I, again, labeled as fundamentalists, narrow-minded, bigoted individuals who wanted to impose their view of morality on everyone else. And yes, I'm sure there are still people in the Republic that are like that, because there's people that aren't in the Republic that are like that. There's people all over the world that are like that. That's how we've been brainwashed. That's how we've been manipulated and controlled by the beast and the false prophet down through the ages. And if those of you that know Revelation, you know what I'm talking about when I talk about the beast and the false prophet. That's what we've been habituated to. That has led to our current misunderstanding of how things are supposed to work. Yes, it's how things were working very poorly, where everything was about divide and conquer. But there's a spirit of unity that is blooming in the hearts of humans that's going to allow ultimately the end of all religion. Because it's not going to make a bit of difference whether you're a Christian or a Buddhist or a Muslim or a Jew or a Hindu or a Zoroastrian or a Taoist or name it, Shintoist, I mean, whatever. Name the religion. It doesn't matter, because it won't matter. Because what we're going to be able to see, what we're going to be able to experience, is the law written on our hearts, where grace and truth come in, where the Christ, the true Christ, where the Buddha, the true Buddha, where the true Mohammedan or Islamic individual, the true Hindu, the true representation of the law of one, the law of unity, where that representation comes down and it comes out through us. It gives birth through us. The Christ comes back in us as our own being, as our own self, the higher self. And it's the Buddhic self. It's the Christed self. And this gives me great hope and great encouragement, despite the fact that there are still going to be people that disappoint me, despite the fact that my inner child may still sometimes cry out because it doesn't feel safe. It went a long way last night listening to that Republic Roundtable Call. And I'm so appreciative that I haven't been excommunicated, because I still don't think it's wise to include the Bible as the named law form and call the common law of God, although I understand where they're coming from on this more than I was able to previously. I still think that in the transition period it tends to be very divisive and should be avoided being so blatant, because we want to make peace, we want unity, we want good for humanity. We want that because that's what the Spirit of God wants in each one of us and from each one of us. And that's where the Spirit of God is leading us, to the new covenant, where grace and truth are embedded in our very being, in our very awareness. And we recognize that the only way we're going to create heaven on earth is by loving one another and not trying to push our religion or our viewpoint down anyone else's throat. I think this is a wonderful revelation, and I look forward to what Spirit is going to be leading me to do today. I didn't get much accomplished yesterday because I was not in a place to accomplish much. As I said, it was an emotional roller coaster. But today, again, there's a more centeredness to my being. And this is the process of growth and awakening. It's not all light. Sometimes, as Carl Jung said, one does not become enlightened by making figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Indeed, we are becoming aware of the underworlds opening up within us, the wounded inner children. But we're going to find a restoration of the higher self within us, the Holy Spirit within us. And together, we're going to create heaven on earth, with angelic assistance indeed, with extraterrestrial involvement most likely. We're going to change the face of the earth and the face of society. I'm encouraged, and I hope you are as well. Namaste.